Boy podcast. Today I have a special guest. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Kidron Cannon. You can find me online mostly like Kid Cannon TV. Just search that. And yeah, I run a production company. I've been filmmaking for, I don't even know, about 10 years or so. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited to have you on. So, like, for the people who don't understand, because I had to put production company in the title, what is a media production company?
Yeah, so it can mean a lot of different things. So like anything having to do with photography, videography, audio, web stuff, like graphic design, that all kind of fits under like a media production company. But what my wife and I do specifically, she does photography full time, I do video full time, and we kind of package that and sell that together.
That's awesome. So, for like any specific event, because I know you guys do weddings in particular, but do you guys do photos for anything, video for anything?
We will if the price is right, but like our niche is weddings. Like that's what I mean. 85, 90% of what we do is weddings. And it's just because it's a very easy market to do photo and video and bundle that together. And it's just like an easy package to sell. So we do weddings. And then I myself am a big MMA fan. I've been an MMA fan for years, wearing my boy Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell's UFC shirt. And I do a lot of stuff with MMA as well on the side.
Super cool. Absolutely. So, you haven't done any like music videos or anything?
It's so funny. I've been asked probably like a dozen different times, but I don't know. I'm kind of picky about the things I do, and there's been a few projects that have popped up for music videos that I've considered, but nothing's ever been just right as far as like having the right budget and also having something that I'd be interested in doing. I'm a Christian as well, and I kind of like limit what I put my name on. Like if the lyrics, if like the vibe of it doesn't quite fit with like what I believe, then I'm not gonna like do the project.
That's awesome, man. The fact that you'll, stick by your morals and values, I think that's great. And
Thank
plus,
you.
you're really established, right? So, like for you to try to do like a music video now, just kind of be like it wouldn't fit. But I'm sure when you first
Yeah.
started, you probably would have been a little bit more open to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say. I mean, yeah, I'm established. I've been doing this for a long time, but it definitely wouldn't be out of like the realm of possibility. Or it's not that it wouldn't fit. It's just the right opportunity hasn't really come up. Like, I actually have a friend who I've done a lot of work with, and he second shoots for me a lot, and he's a really, really good, talented musician. And I'm talking to him, and I'm probably going to do a music video for his band at some point. They're kind of just starting to break out. And my wife and I are actually relocating our business to Colorado at the end of this year. So before we leave Tennessee, I want to like do a project with him, but it'll happen at some point, I'm sure.
Okay, awesome. Why are you guys relocating, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, it's been a dream of hers for a long time. Her sisters lived out there for like 10 years, and she visited all the time, like in high school and college. And for what we do, shooting weddings and shooting couples and stuff, um, it's hard to beat the environment out in Colorado. When you anywhere you look, there's the Rockies, and there's not a bad backdrop anywhere. So it just kind of elevates the visuals to the next level. Tennessee is all right, and there are parts that are like really cool, but this time of year everything's just completely dead and gray, and so she wants to be somewhere where it's just inspiring, I guess, by the environment. And so and I love Colorado too. I grew up skiing out there and stuff, so it'll be good.
Right. So how would you plan to, like, if you guys did end up moving, how would you plan to like reestablish
Yeah.
yourself in a new place?
It's a good question, and it's been a long process. So, like, we moved here, we got married in 2016, and we ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, because I was working with some people, and then we decided to do our own thing, and it was just a good market. And so, when we consider moving, we have to look at the market for where we're going and start. So, like, if we want to start working January of 2021, we started thinking about this back in like 2018, and we started getting content for Colorado. So we would go out there once a year or so, shoot some stuff, get a bunch of content, put it out, and kind of market that towards the Colorado market so that we at least people start seeing it. And then this year we're really amping that up. And we've already booked a couple weddings out there for next year, and we're trying to get as many as we can ahead of time, because weddings are typically booked about a year in advance, give or take. So we are mostly booked for this year in Nashville, and then we're starting to book 2021 in Colorado, and just marketing that as much as we can.
Oh wow! So you almost have to close off the books then for that
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, we have the goal of it's funny. A couple years ago, we did 40 weddings, and we were killing ourselves, running ourselves ragged, trying to get them all. So we cut back. Last year we did 31. It was still too many. So this year we're shooting for right at 20 to 25 in Nashville. Once we hit that cap, we just will completely end all marketing for Tennessee and do everything for Colorado. So we're getting pretty close to that. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. So why is 40 too much then? Because I mean, that's less than one a week. And I mean, just
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
coming from somebody who doesn't really
I understand.
understand
Yeah,
how much work
it
it is.
doesn't sound like much, but I'll just give an example of what one wedding entails for the two of us. So,
Okay.
one wedding is generally meeting with multiple different couples. So we'll call it 5 different meetings on average, and then one will book us. So there's 5 nights of the week we've already worked, kind of starting that, and then it's months of kind of emailing back and forth, getting contracts, getting everything nailed down. So there's hours and hours right there. And then once it's all settled and we're getting close, it's a couple days, 2 or 3 days at least, of prepping gear, getting everything ready, going into the day, knowing what we're going to do. On the wedding day itself, generally 10 to 12 hours of work, getting there, getting set up, shooting, and doing photo and video. It just takes so much time, so much effort kind of throughout the day doing that, as well as like mental. I used to say when we first started doing this, I felt like I had run a marathon and taken the ACT at the same time when I got home from a wedding, because that's just kind of what goes into it. And then that's just to get the content. Then we have to get home, back it up. If we have a wedding the next day, we're up till like 4 a.m. backing everything up, copying, getting our gear flipped. And if not, we still have to back it all up. And then average 30, 35, maybe 40 hours of work editing to get one video out. And that's just one wedding. So 40 of those in a year. Oh my goodness, it was rough. So
Dude, that is
yeah,
crazy,
yeah,
man. So when you were first starting out, I mean, you obviously didn't have this system in place.
right.
So like, can you talk to me or talk to the fact that you had to develop the system, and like when you first started, like were you confused? How did you figure it out? Were you just kind of,
Yeah, in terms of like the wedding business.
yeah, like how did that develop? Like
Yeah,
obviously, if I were gonna start a business and I wanted to take pictures for a wedding, I'd be
yeah,
like, all right, y'all come out here, we're gonna take pictures. I'll film a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
So there's kind of a couple layers to it. One is just actually attaining the ability to do the work, and that came from, I had about 6 or 7 years of video experience already before I got to that point. So I was already very comfortable with my gear, very confident in my video production skills before I even started doing it. So if someone was just coming at it not having any video experience, it's going to be a lot sharper like learning curve to actually understand how to use the gear, and just knowing how to hold a camera and shoot that's one thing. But on top of that, you have to know what you want your end product to be, how to get the couples to engage and look natural and feel comfortable with the whole process. And that's just the media side of it. On the other side, it was a long process of learning the business side, because most people who come into it, they know how to take pictures, and they're artistic, they're creative. But the business side is a whole different half of the brain, and it's just a very different process. So it was kind of a learning process of getting a contract, asking people to pay you money. It's a weird thing for a lot of people, and it was for me too, starting out. Like, hey, you want me to shoot this? Give me money. And you have to learn the language of that, of using like contracts and invoices and all that kind of thing. So for us, it was, it was doing a couple weddings for friends, learning the process of, I should have had a contract for this. I should have told them to pay me this much. This wasn't enough. I need to ask for more because of the work I'm putting in.
Right.
And then over time, you learn all these things, and it gets to the point where it becomes a system of putting your content out there, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is, having people inquire and find you. And when they do find you, having something there for them to click that they can get a lead. They can put their info in, get it to you, you respond, you can set up those conversations and those meetings,
Right.
and then get to the point of actually getting paid and doing the job.
So it's almost like anything. It's more trial and error. You kind of figure
Yeah,
out what works, what doesn't work.
yeah, definitely. A lot of learning what doesn't work, and then
Right.
changing it. Yeah,
Because there's a lot of nuances that people don't necessarily see in there. Like even like you were
absolutely.
talking about negotiating price. I
Yeah,
mean, when you try to negotiate price with people, you have to be able to know what you're worth and ask what
yeah.
you're worth and be real.
Exactly. Yeah, and then that gets to the point of we got to the point of establishing different packages for our wedding. So like a 6 hour, an 8 hour, a 10 hour package. and then the same for photo, those 3 packages, the same for video, and then a bundle. And then you just have all these options kind of outlined and have it accessible where people can visually see it and then figure out what they need. And then you meet with them and kind of figure out their needs and help them to understand it.
Right. So how long have you been in this business for?
Okay, so like I said, we got married in 2016 in July. That's when we got married and we moved here to Nashville, and we started officially then, I guess. We had done 1 or 2 weddings for friends before then, but I'll say that's when we kind of started the business. And the first few months was just me kind of digging up work, like meeting people, creating contacts, like asking for things, just doing random side video projects, while my wife was really the one kind of building the business and doing the marketing portion of it. And we just kind of found a system of Instagram. Mostly like 99% of the people who've booked us and found us, it's all come through Instagram. So she's the whiz with that. She's fantastic at like getting our content out there, posting consistently, being visible to people through like location tags and hashtags and that kind of thing. So yeah, the past 4 years, I guess, I've just been kind of developing that system and then getting the people, getting the gigs, and then putting the content out there, and just kind of the cycle repeats.
So that's incredible. Okay, awesome. So as far as the Instagram content, are you guys running any ads on Instagram specifically to target people, or is it more so just the geo tags like you were saying?
Yeah, we've never paid for an ad on Instagram. It's all just appearing in searches. So being very strategic, doing your research on what hashtags are actually going to be found. And so when we would have people reach out and book us or inquire with us, we would say, hey, how did you find us? And consistently it was Instagram. So then we would say, okay, do you remember what you searched, like how you found us? And it's just about using very specific things like hashtag Nashville wedding photographer, hashtag Nashville wedding photography, hashtag, those type of things. And then the surrounding areas as well, Tennessee wedding photographer, all those type of things. Yeah, and like I said, my wife, it's 100% her, all of this. She's incredible with it, and she's the one who's like kind of learned the system and become a master at it.
That's incredible that you would think that Google search would be your main driver of traffic. I didn't know that people really searched hashtags that much.
Yeah, absolutely. So it varies depending on what you do. Like if you run a business like a restaurant or something like that, it's probably going to be like Google Maps, Yelp, those type of things. That Google ad services is what people are probably going to be directed towards. But because what we do is very visual, people get engaged, and more likely they've already been looking, but they'll go on Instagram and start looking at photos and videos and looking for photographers that way. And every business is going to be different in terms of like how you funnel your traffic and how people are finding you. But since what we do is visual, Instagram just fit it perfectly.
That is incredible. So you haven't paid for any Instagram ads whatsoever. You're literally just driving traffic through the hashtags and then converting that traffic into customers, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like it's set up, people will be looking for a photographer on Instagram. They'll maybe find our photos, click on our page, scroll through it. They see the consistency, the quality there. And then in the bio, we have a place they can email us, but mostly what it is a link to our website, and on the website all the info's there, and there's a contact form, and that's how we get the traffic and get our clients.
Dude, that's incredible. I love that, man.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, usually you think about, when you have a business, there's got to be this whole big budget, but you guys are just organically driving all of this traffic.
Yeah, and so when we first started, I think once or twice we tried like a Facebook ad or two, never really got anything from it, but we were finding that Instagram was working, so we stuck with that. As we're transitioning to Colorado, it may be some difference in the market, and there might be a point where we start paying for some Instagram ads and doing some of that. But so far, we've stuck with just what's been working, and since it's been working, we haven't had to change it. But it's definitely possible that we would do some Instagram ads in the future.
Okay. So wait, take me back. So whenever you guys first started, obviously when you first start any business, you need to get those leads and stuff. You didn't have any pictures that you could drive the Instagram traffic for. So how did you go about getting those first initial customers, and then how did you, use those to leverage more?
Yeah, we had some content because we had done like 1 or 2 weddings for friends, and we did lots of like free shoots or shoots for friends, where they would model for us. My wife would do photography and get content that way. And so that's how we would kind of get content to get started, and my wife does mentor sessions where other photographers will like reach out and she'll give them advice. And one tip that she gives a lot of people is when you're starting out, if you don't have the content, just get it, just create it, offer free photo shoots. Anyone, it doesn't matter if you suck at photography, people are going to take a free photo shoot. So that's what we tell people, and that's what we did at first, was just kind of getting as much content as we could. And then as we started booking 1 wedding, 3 weddings, 5 weddings, we had that content, and we would just kind of push that, post it over and over, and just, you know, if you get a few hundred photos at a wedding, post 1, 2 a day, that'll last you months. And as you use those and get more clients, you'll get more content.
Yeah, whenever anybody asks me about starting a business, I say the same thing. Do it for free in the beginning, and then use that to leverage more customers. In your guys' case, it worked even better because who's not going to post a free photo shoot picture? You know, I mean, and those people are going to post all your content, and then people will ask, you know, how did you guys get these? It looks so cool.
And we would definitely like ask people to, you know, when you post these, please tag us, you know, and most people do. Like some people don't think about it or forget, but yeah, people are usually pretty good about that, especially when you get free stuff.
So I got to tell you, this business is like one of the best word of mouth businesses then that you could almost start, you know, just because people are going to display your work, you know, like you said, they have to tag you and stuff. That's you know, one portion of it, but how about that, man? That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And we've had multiple instances as well where we would do a wedding for a bride, and then she would show her photos to her coworkers and stuff, and then they would inquire with us. And I think there was one girl who hired us, and we shot her wedding, and I think we did at least 3 couples in the same office, if not more. I know of 3 that we did from that same office. They just kind of told, and we just like went down the line of women in the office, and we would do all their weddings. So
that is incredible. Yeah, because I do pressure washing business, and the best way to get business for me, just like any other business, is referrals. However, I don't have, it's not like people are bragging about their driveways or their houses, you know, but they want to brag about the wedding photos, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And my brother does the same thing you do. He does like landscaping, pressure washing, small repairs, that kind of stuff. And so it's the same. It's like you'll help out a couple, and then their next door neighbors will see you. They'll refer you, someone down the street. So yeah, definitely. As long as you do good work, people are gonna hire you.
Yeah, and you treat people the right way. No,
exactly.
Absolutely. So this kind of started as a hobby then, and then it transitioned into a business. When did you guys realize that, like, okay, we can actually do this?
Yeah, it's honestly, I've never had a job in my life. I'm like 27, and I've never worked at a restaurant. I've never done retail. I've never done anything. All I've done since high school, like in high school, I just did video for fun. That was my hobby. That's what I did. And I did it for classes and that kind of thing. And then in school, I went to school for media. I didn't learn much because I was kind of learning on my own, but I would just consistently do the projects and do it for fun because I enjoyed doing it. And so through college, I guess I started doing some for hire. I had a mentor who just kind of showed me, you know, how to ask for money, how to get paid for things. Started doing that. Met my wife in school as well, and she kind of started doing the same, just doing photo shoots for, you know, some money, not a lot. And then we decided we could do this like together as a business. We actually weren't even dating yet when we decided. We like kind of thought we wanted to do it, and then we started dating. We got engaged, we got married, and then along the way we did 2 or 3 weddings. And then once we were married, we had no work. We're like, I guess we're just gonna do this. Like, we can make money doing this. Why not? And so that's how it went.
Dude, that is crazy. Yeah. So what did you do in the time span between like college and like being married? Like, what were you doing for work in there?
So I graduated 2015 in May. Up till that point, I was like in school, living on campus, that kind of thing, and just doing some video stuff on the side. She had 1 more year to go in school. So we went to school at Harding University in Arkansas. It's a tiny Christian school. It's where I met Bryce. He's still a student there, actually. But so once I graduated, my wife still had a year. So I went home for the summer, came back to that tiny town in Arkansas, and rented a house with Bryce and with a couple other friends. And I started doing some freelance work for a advertising agency in town. I was doing a lot of work with, I don't even remember how I got connected with them, but like I had a friend who referred me to someone who thought they might know someone, and then he referred me to this couple who was doing a hunting show. And they were producing a hunting show for an outdoor channel on TV, and they needed a shooter. So I went on a shoot with them. We did, I don't even know, we did like alligator hunts, bear hunts, elk hunt, deer hunt, all this stuff. I had no interest in hunting, but it was kind of fun traveling, like seeing different stuff, and I could film. So I started working with them. doing a lot of production with them. And then they wanted my wife and me both, when we got married, they wanted us to come on with them full time and just do that. Her doing photography, me doing video. We went and did one shoot with them in Florida. It was a pretty long, like 2-week trip, fishing and stuff, and it just didn't feel right. We didn't want to be newlyweds on the road, living like in a trailer with these people and doing this. And at the time, the money seemed pretty good, but we didn't really have a concept of it yet. Looking back, it was not good. So I'm glad we just kind of went with our gut and decided we weren't going to do that. And we were going to do our own thing full time. But so that bridge between like college and getting married and doing this, I was working just kind of freelance stuff with that production company and just any other side gigs I could kind of find.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because people honestly, they probably wait until it's too late. They wait until they're dependent on the job, where they have to pay bills to start up their own business. So I think you guys definitely did it the right way. What was your beginner setup whenever you first started recording? Like, obviously you did it for a long time, you know?
Yeah. It's been a transition. Like, I've never not had a camera, so it's just kind of been a slow transition. But I personally have always shot on Canon cameras, Canon DSLRs. I had like a Panasonic like camcorder at one point when I was first getting started. But as soon as I found DSLR cameras, I fell in love with them. The image quality was fantastic. So I had like a Canon Rebel, like just a cheap, you could literally get one for like $200 now, like a Canon Rebel T3i. I shot a documentary on Bryce. That was like how I kind of learned to use a DSLR. And just like, I shoot on something called a glide cam, and I'm actually like one of like 5 or 6 dudes in the world that are recognized as a glide cam master from the company Glide Cam that makes them, but it's a camera stabilizer. If you kind of, most people have probably seen electronic gimbals by now. Like, so anytime you see a camera on basically a stick and the camera is like being stabilized and they're running around with it, so that's an electronic gimbal. But before those existed, there was something called a mechanical gimbal or mechanical stabilizer, and GlideCam was kind of the pioneering company behind this. And it's pretty simple. It's like you have a metal pole, you have a ball bearing with a handle on it, you put your camera on top, and there's weights on the bottom. And once you get it all balanced, you can move it around and the camera stays stable. But it takes a long time to kind of get good at it, and it's something that I really dedicated myself to, and I've been doing it for like 7 or 8 years. And so my early setup was a Canon Rebel T3i, a Rode shotgun mic, and a glide cam, and then just cheap lenses until I could kind of save up money and get better equipment and stuff. And then since then, I've literally just kind of upgraded a camera, sold it, upgraded, sold it, upgraded, and just kind of used my camera to make money and then put that money back towards the business. I mean, honestly, that's still what we're doing today, even on a much larger scale. You know, a lot of the money we made this year went back into just buying equipment and kind of upgrading and keeping it going.
Right. So what's your setup now looking like as opposed to what it was?
So now my main body is a Canon 1DX Mark II. And until like 3 days ago, it was kind of the best flagship Canon DSLR body you could get. They just announced the Mark III, which looks really cool too. But it's a fantastic camera, like shoots in 4K and slow motion and all that good stuff. And then I have, I don't even know, 8 or 9 lenses that I have for different things. And then I have a couple of Canon ADD bodies that I use for just alternate angles. And then my second primary camera is a Canon Cinema body. It's a C100 Mark II. And it's a lot more for like filming on a set or filming documentary style stuff. And so, yeah, between the 1DX Mark II and the C100 Mark II, those are kind of my main 2 bodies. And there's a lot of cameras I would like to get eventually down the road. You know how it goes, get, gear and upgrading stuff. But right now, that's where I'm at. And I could use them for probably the next 5 or 10 years and they'd be okay, but I want to just keep kind of upgrading as we go.
Right, you get broke buying all the gear.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your most expensive camera? I don't remember what exactly you said the name of it was, but like, how much is a camera like that?
The 1DX Mark II was about $6,000 when I bought it new.
Holy.
Yeah, and I bought it. It's funny, I actually bought it like a month before we got married, and my wife was like, "Why the heck did you spend $6,000 on this camera? Like, couldn't you just use the one you had?" And but I don't know. I just felt like it was gonna give me like what I needed, and I bought it. I actually got a a credit card that had 0% interest for 12 months. And I was like, I'm just going to pay this off before the 12 months is up. And then I sold the camera, put that towards like half of it, and then just kind of paid a few $100 every month until it paid it off. And it's been the main camera I've used since we started the business, and it's still doing really good.
Dang, man, that's crazy. It's so crazy too that your last name is Cannon and that you started with a Canon.
Yeah,
you probably get that all the time.
We have, and it's become kind of a point of frustration for my wife because our Instagram until recently was Canon wedding photography, and we would get tagged by thousands of photographers who thought they were tagging Canon, the brand, who had like a wedding photography account that people were supposed to tag. So we'd get tagged in crap all the time, and we're like, this is so annoying. So we just recently changed our Instagram handle to Becca and Kidron Photo. But anyway, yeah.
It was probably bringing some good traffic onto the channel though, right?
Yeah, some, but not the kind we wanted. Like, it's just people who are looking for us to shout them out, basically, and not like actual people interested in our work, or But anyway, so it's interesting.
What do you? I saw. I think it was like on your Instagram story or something. You were editing a video, and it was like had like 7 different layers on it or something.
Yeah.
So what are you editing on now, and how do you manage all that?
So I have edited on Adobe Premiere for 7-8 years, and I love Adobe Creative Cloud. We just have like the membership, and we both have like unlimited access to all the programs. And yeah, so like I think Premiere is great. I actually don't use Mac, and a lot of people find that like astonishing because any videographer you meet, like they edit on MacBooks and all this stuff. But I build computers because I want like them to have certain like high level specs so I can edit quickly. And I do everything on PC. So I edit in Premiere, and yeah, that story that had like all the layers, like again, going back to like weddings, like we charge a lot because a lot of work goes into it. They're really complicated. Like if you watch one of our wedding videos, there are people who I think do a little higher quality work than we do, but there's not that many out there who do much higher than we do. So the way I shoot a ceremony, I'll have like 5 camera angles going simultaneously so I can like cut to things. So when I get it into editing, I have all these video layers, and all those cameras have their accompanying audio level, and then I also have multiple audio recorders placed on different people and stuff. So I end up with like 13 or 14 levels that I'm like kind of having to sync and edit. But yeah, so I use a program that syncs it all automatically. But yeah.
Okay, no, that's awesome, dude. Because I edit all my videos on Final Cut Pro. It's nowhere near anywhere what you do at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that, but I wish I could use PC. Because I'm using my Mac, and sometimes my Mac gets bogged down because
absolutely.
Files are too big.
Yeah, I mean, Macs are designed for creative people, and when you're doing just kind of basic stuff, they're fantastic. But as soon as you get higher level, you have to put a lot of money into making a Mac, like being able to kind of keep up with what you need it to do, and over time they get much slower. That's what I like about PC. Like I can like open it up, swap out a new graphics card like that, and have it bump up. I can add RAM. I can do all these things that you can't really do easily with a Mac, and it's like a third the price. So that's what I started doing when I got into video years ago. I just learned how to build computers and look at specs, and I just built this one like a few months ago, and it's amazing. So I love it.
And if you wanted to, you could probably upgrade any part of any part of it that you want, right?
You can. The only limiting factor you get to is like the motherboard, which after like 4 or 5 years, they usually become kind of a bottleneck, and then I'll just build a new computer at that point. But yeah, like you just swap stuff out. It's like Legos.
So is there any? So would you recommend, like for me, as an example, is there any way that I can edit my stuff on Final Cut Pro on a PC? Like, is there?
Yeah, there are. They call them like Hackintoshes, where you like you build a PC and you like get like a hacked something where you can run Mac on it, Mac OS. But I don't know. I don't know much about it. I tried Final Cut for like a month in college for a class, and I absolutely hated it. So I've stuck with Premiere, and I love it.
Right. See, the only thing is, once you've used one of those softwares for so long, and you're like, it's your baby, you know?
So the thing is, I used Sony Vegas for quite a while before I found Premiere, and I actually, even now, like 10 years later, I still use the keystrokes and the shortcuts from Sony Vegas because that's how I learned to edit. So you can go into Premiere and set your shortcuts to be whatever you want them to be. So if you're used to keystrokes from Final Cut, you can program them into Premiere and use them the same way.
See, that might be a way around it then.
Exactly. And you can change the layout too. Like if you want your bin up here and this preview over here, you can swap it all around to make it look like Final Cut if you need to. But
man, okay, well, I might have to look into that then.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Absolutely. So, okay, as far as we were talking about your prices, and I know you said your prices are up there with pretty much the higher end people. How did you go about pricing when you first started, and then how did that
Yeah,
evolve until now?
it's a great question. So when we
And you don't
started,
have to give specifics if you don't
yeah,
want to.
no,
Just yeah,
I don't mind at all. So when we started, we had just come out of school in Arkansas, and the area was like one of the lowest income levels in the country. So that's what we were kind of used to with clientele. Clientele was like they wouldn't want to pay $50 for a photo shoot.
right,
Nashville 500 is pretty common, like pretty like baseline. So it was a big like kind of shift for us to understand the value of the dollar in Nashville versus Searcy, Arkansas. And when we started out, our prices were like basically our prices were too low for people to hire us. And it sounds completely counterintuitive. You would think, oh, these people have low prices and they do great work, let's hire them. But the thing is, when you have a high budget wedding that's like a $200,000 wedding, they've already budgeted in like 10 grand for photo video. And if they see someone who's charging 2,500, they assume that the level of quality of the products, the service they're going to get is $2,500, and
right,
they assume if they hire someone for 10,000, the service is going to be way higher, like a higher quality. So it
right,
was just kind of a learning over time of finding. We were charging like 2,000 or 3,000 or whatever at first for like both of us, and getting and eventually people started booking us, but they were just they weren't high end weddings. They were
right,
people who had budgeted that much, which is okay. And we did a lot of those weddings, but over time we realized, okay, these aren't like the highest budget weddings, and we would kind of raise our prices a little bit because at one point we would, we'd be booked so much that we had no free time. We're like, okay, let's raise our prices, take fewer weddings, do less work, but make the same amount of money. So we
right,
did that. And then we still got booked out. We're like, okay, let's raise them again. So we did that, and we still got booked out. So it's just a process of kind of over time raising them to a level where your kind of your workload is as high or as low as you want it to be based on
right.
your pricing. And so I think now we found a sweet spot. I think recently may have charged like slightly a little more than what is sufficient for the number of clients we're trying to get. So that's like the perfect point to be at. So
Wow.
yeah, it's just been a trial and error. And when we move to Colorado, we may have to kind of adjust them to meet the market and figure out where it is again. But
Right.
yeah, it's just a
Because like
slow process.
in pressure washing and landscaping, it's the same premise. Basically, like out of 10 jobs, if you're landing, 5, 6 jobs out of that, you're probably priced pretty well. So I think it's the
Yeah.
same type of deal for you guys, huh? Y'all just
Yeah.
kept raising it until
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the other thing about what we do too is like our starting price will be listed on our website, and that weeded out a lot of inquiries we would get. So before our
mm,
starting price was listed, we might get 20 or 30 inquiries, and like 3 or 4 people would book us because the majority of them we were out of their price range. As soon as we put the starting price on that, our inquiries dropped from like 30 to like 10, but we would book 6 or 7 of those. So
so you were converting better
yeah,
without having to go through those,
exactly. Yeah, and we weren't wasting time responding to people who would ghost us or like, hey,
right.
can you lower your prices? No, like that whole thing.
So
So
you
yeah,
were pre-qualifying essentially.
exactly. Yeah.
Dude, that's beautiful, man. And
Yeah.
was there any like mental shift that had to occur? I mean, you go from charging 3 grand to 10 grand in a wedding. Was it just kind of discovering your worth or what you could get?
Yeah, it was at first starting out, it was like we were just so thankful for any work we could get, any money we could get. We're like, this is awesome. And
Right,
then as you do it for months and months and you're grinding like nonstop, you realize, oh my gosh, I'm tired. Like I need a break from this. Let's, charge more. And then over time, as you get paid, like 4,000, 5,000, you're like, okay, like that seemed like a big thing. It was like, dang, that's a lot of money. But then as you get it and you realize the worth and the value and the money, the time you're putting in to get that payment, you're like, okay, this is worth it. I'm going to raise it a little bit and just kind of keep bumping it up incrementally.
right. And I guess your reputation was,
Yeah,
great. You had great referrals. I
right,
mean,
right.
so because the difference between going from 3,000 for a wedding to 10,000, I mean, you could do 3 weddings for the price that you guys do
Yeah,
it now,
exactly. And we're not getting like 10 grand a wedding. It's just like kind of fluctuates somewhere in the middle there. But
Right, right,
our
right.
prices have probably doubled or tripled, at least doubled, if not tripled, like over the past 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely. And if you guys were to stay in Nashville, it might even go up even more, right?
Yeah, exactly. If we were to stay here, I think we'd find that sweet spot and get booked just for the number that we're comfortable doing, for the money we're comfortable doing, and it would be great. And we wouldn't have to be in an apartment anymore. We'd get a house. We've saved up. We could get a down payment, but we're just kind of putting that money towards the moving and building the business out there. Yeah.
Right. So you have your own business. This business is obviously doing very well for you. How do you strategize between like paying yourself, advertise? Well, I guess you don't spend as much money on advertising, but paying yourself and then upgrading equipment. Like, how do you prioritize that?
Yeah, what we did this past year, 2019 was the first year that we were on the books as an LLC. And so I have a friend who's a CPA, and she's been helping us with like taxes and business things. And what she told me was, as an LLC, what we needed to do is set a salary for ourselves and something that we could like live off of. If that's all the money we were getting from like a company, if we were working for like a corporation somewhere or whatever, like that's what we'd be getting. And so, we figured that number out. So it was like $2,000 every couple of weeks or $2,500 every couple of weeks. And so what we would do is, as the business, Canon Media LLC, gets all this revenue coming in. If we do a wedding, they write the check out to Canon Media LLC, put that in the bank of Canon Media LLC. It's not our money, it's the business. And then a couple weeks, every couple weeks on Monday, I transfer a set amount from the business over to us, and that's what we, in our personal checking account, that's what we have to live on. And there's other things like, as an LLC, you're allowed to do what's called a shareholder distribution, where it's like, it's not payroll, but it's like money that the business is giving to the shareholders. So like, if we want to pay off some of my wife's loans or something, we can get a number that we were comfortable kind of living at to pay our expenses, and then have a little extra for like savings and that kind of thing. And then we've just stuck to that and then done that. And then that's our payroll, and the business pays the payroll tax on that. It comes out of the business, and we don't have to worry about it personally, just the business. Yeah.
Dude, that is super cool. I love the way you guys have structured that out.
Yeah, it was all our CPA's idea. I'd be lost about all this stuff, but it's good to have a good CPA who can help you and tell you all these things.
Yeah, moral of the story, find a good CPA.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No, dude, that's awesome. So as far as upgrading any equipment or anything, is there a budget set out for that? Or like once the account gets to a certain limit, or?
Yeah, what I've done with that from the business side is, if we need a piece of gear for the business and we think it's going to be beneficial and it's not insanely out of our price range, we just get it. So like a couple of times this past year, I've like bought my wife like new camera bodies. She actually it's funny, she had shot on Nikon her entire life until like this past year, and she's been a Canon, like my last name, for the past 4 years, but she was on Nikon. But we switched over from Nikon to Canon. So a couple times she's been like, hey, I really need this lens. Mine's just like not quite doing it. I'm like, all right, the business will get that lens, and it's a business write-off. And so we haven't really set like a budget for for equipment and stuff, but we also don't go crazy with it. It's like, if we need something, we get it. And then if there's something we would love to have, but we don't need it yet, we'll think about it and we'll kind of budget for it in the future. So I have a couple cameras that I have my eye on. I would like to get, but they're just not quite a necessity yet. If mine breaks, I'm going to buy a new camera tomorrow. But right now I'm in a good spot, so we'll just kind of, if we need it, we get it. If we don't, we don't.
So how are you hearing about like all the new gear? Do you follow certain people on YouTube? Is there certain people in the camera space that, where do you get all the camera information from,
It's a combination. Like, I have probably 5 or 6 different like camera fan accounts and stuff that I follow on Instagram, and then just following other videographers, seeing what they're shooting on, what they're posting. But then also, everyone lives in this age where Google knows what you like, so that's going to pop up all the time. So I'm always getting ads from like Canon and Red and Ari and this kind of stuff. And then anytime I open Google, like there's stuff there. So I'm always getting kind of updates, like this camera, the 1DX Mark III that came out a few days ago. Like I saw it like in 4 different places the past couple of days. So
right.
Yeah, it'll find you.
Yeah, no. Okay, so they'll find you. But I mean, like as far as upgrading, like you have a $6,000 camera. I can't imagine that the next camera up would be that much of an increase in quality, right?
It was a $6,000 camera in 2016. So if I were to sell it today, probably $2,500, $3,000, but it still does what I need it to do. And that's why I haven't had a reason to upgrade it yet. I mean, there's just intricate things that you wish something could do, or this camera does it better than this camera. So yeah, it's definitely still doing its job right now. I had one kind of malfunction with it or like middle of last year, so I had to send it into Canon to get that fixed. But since then, I haven't had anything else, so I'm fine sticking with it for now. And then if I have a big issue with it or something, I'll buy a new one.
So how do you feel about 4K? Or like, are you shooting these weddings in 4K?
It's a combination. Okay, so there's kind of a trade-off when it comes to the quality that you're getting and the amount of data it's taking up. So
Right.
when I shoot a wedding, I'm averaging around 300 gigs of footage for that wedding. And if I were to shoot everything in 4K, I would be at 700 or 800 gigs per wedding because the camera I'm shooting on has a ridiculously high data rate. So I don't shoot everything in 4K. Like with my main camera body, it's actually the only camera I have that could shoot in 4K. And there's reasons for it. Like one is the data. Like I have about 60 terabytes worth of like storage right here, like within arm's reach of me, of just full like old footage and it's ridiculous to have like, I would double or triple that if I shot everything in 4K. That's one reason I don't. The other is when I deliver the product to the client, I do it in 1080. And that's because out of my 5 camera bodies, I'm only shooting one in 4K. So I don't want to like stretch everything from 1080 to 4K. It just looks bad. So what I do is I shoot important moments, really important footage on my camera in 4K, condense that to 1080. It retains the quality. And then I deliver the final product in 1080 because like 90% of people are going to watch it on their phone. No one's going to pause it, go to the little icon, adjust it to 4K if it was there to begin.
Right. Because then, even then, like you're talking about, it's got to render and stuff for even it to play in 4K.
Exactly. I mean, most of my people probably watch it in 480 on their phone. So 4K would be doing them no favors. So I would, and there's another route I could have gone, and I still could switch. It would just be kind of costly at this point. But a lot of people shoot on Sony cameras, and they're great too. I had one for a while, just wasn't a huge fan of it. Everything I have is Canon, and I kind of switched. But Sony has like a lower data rate, so I could be shooting 80 to 100 gigs per wedding and everything being 4K on Sony. But it's just kind of a creative choice I made. I prefer Canon colors, the color technology in Canon. I like Canon lenses better. And so I've decided to go this route. If I wanted, I could sell everything, switch to Sony, do everything in 4K, but just I don't think I'd be quite as happy with the colors and the lens quality and that kind of thing. So it's just kind of, you have to pick and choose how you want it to go.
I've experienced that on a much smaller scale. So like when I was trying to decide between the GoPros, they have like a white, silver, and black. Now the white one, it only shoots in 1080p as opposed to the other two shooting 4K. Now I only need 1080p because people only watch YouTube on 1080p for the most part because most people don't have devices that can even play 4K.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then it'll like you said, it takes up more storage space, and then I think it makes the device die quicker too if it's having to shoot in a higher resolution.
It could, I guess. I've never really had that, but that's
maybe not. I just the higher end GoPros just seem like they died quicker.
So maybe so. And well, it kind of makes sense because rendering the higher bit rate, it's going to be running at a hotter temperature, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah. So that's why I was wondering that. Okay. So would you recommend other people start this business? And if so, what kind of advice could you offer them?
Yeah. I mean, I always encourage anyone that I meet to work for themselves because I just don't want to work for someone else. I don't want to have a desk job. Like no one really wants that. Let's be honest. So I mean, yeah, I think it's a cool field to go into. I don't think everyone should do it. It's like some people just aren't made for it. There's kind of you have to have at least somewhat of a vision. You have to have some creativity. And you have to be honestly pretty organized. Like a lot of this is organization, being responsible, being professional. So some people it's not for them. Even some super creative people could go out and make like a ridiculously awesome film. But when it comes to like dealing with clients, being places on time, and being reliable, they're just not cut for that. So you just kind of have to know yourself. And running a business, even like a video business, photography business, is much more than just picking up a camera. It's, there's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of like business and just being professional with it. But yeah, if someone, feels like they have a passion for it, an interest in it. They feel like they could be responsible professional with it and be dedicated to it. Heck yeah, go for it. Advice I would give is before you just go for it or quit your day job, as they say, like get experience, do it, and know if you want to do it. If you go out and shoot 10 videos and just, it could be anything, you'll learn if you want to do this or if you don't want to do it. There's a lot of boring technical crap that goes into it that some people just be like, this is not for me. And, just find that out before you jump in all the way. But I probably did 70 to 100 video projects at least before I even started thinking about doing it like for money or as a profession. So, just get your feet wet first.
Like editing in itself is such a daunting task. I can't even imagine for all the footage that you have.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was struggling with that today a little bit. Oh man, I've probably 80 to 90 weddings I've edited over the past few years. And it's like, most of them are fun and I really enjoy the end product. But honestly, the hardest thing for me is like looking for music. I have like multiple websites that I have a subscription to and I can get all the free music I want. But at this point, I know what I want. And sometimes just finding it takes hours and my brain's just like, this is dumb. So there's a lot of stuff that's more boring and tedious that goes into it. So, and I've known a lot of people who are super creative and can shoot really well and are artistic, but they get to the editing, they're like, I'm done. I'm not messing with this anymore. And I understand, like, it's not for everybody.
Right. You can't. Why don't you just? I mean, obviously this wouldn't be good business, but why can't you just use the same song?
I could, and I've done enough videos I could start recycling them, but it's just kind of a pet peeve of ours. Like we want everyone's video when they get it to be like perfectly unique to them. I have clips even from like other weddings of like, if I've shot at the same venue 10 times, I have drone footage from other weddings. I don't have to take the drone up at this wedding because I have clips from last weekend when I was at the same venue, but I do anyway. Like I want the video I deliver to be uniquely them. The music has to be like the vibe of the couple. Like if they're super like black tie and like hip hop with it, I'm not putting a country song, it has to match. And then vice versa too. If they're redneck, I'm not putting like, the hip hop track on it. It's just not gonna fit. So there's a lot of factors.
I would feel like Jack Johnson would probably. Can you use?
That's a no. It's like the music I use I have to have a licensing and distribution rights to it, and I'm not gonna get that for like Bieber or Jack Johnson or like anybody that anyone's heard of. It's gonna be people who literally do this for a living. They like record and write and record tracks to sell on music licensing websites. And there's a lot of amazing artists out there no one's ever heard of, but I get to use their music for stuff like this. But people do request that sometimes. They'll be like, hey, can you use this Rihanna track? I'm like, no, sorry.
Is there a reason why? I mean, because if they're not posting it somewhere, if it's just for their personal use, right?
Yeah.
Or are they buying it?
Okay, so it doesn't matter if you buy the track. What it is like, let's take Jay-Z, like, or Justin Bieber, whoever, like their song is owned by like a record label, so like Capitol Records, Sony Records, whoever, they own the rights to it. So if I were to go and, for example, like if I was making a show that was going to be on like CBS and I didn't get the rights to it, that's a lawsuit and that's thousands of dollars in fines immediately because I didn't pay them the right to use the song. They own the right to it. No one else can use it. And then so on a smaller scale for us, it's like if I were to grab a song, Justin Bieber, whoever put it in there, the moderator in this case is YouTube. They have a system in place that anything that's uploaded to their server, immediately the audio is scanned, they recognize it, and they say this song is owned by this record label. And a few different things can happen. What generally happens is nothing happens except I can't make money off of the views, which I like to do is, monetizing videos.
Right.
But another thing that could happen is they could take the video down, delete it, then my couple can't watch it.
Right.
Another thing is there could be a flag on my account and say, hey, you didn't have the rights to this. This is a strike against you. If you do it again, we're deleting your channel completely. So there's just kind of different levels to it. But the reason is the song is owned. It's media owned by a company, by a record label. And if you don't pay them the right to use it, then you can't use it.
Okay, so because I guess I thought that maybe you were just emailing the couple the song, so I was like, why can't they just have it? But so this is more for YouTube's sake, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. In a way, like I could produce the video and then give it to them, and then if they're the only people watching it, I suppose, yeah, you could kind of use any song, but realistically, the couple paid me thousands of dollars so that they could have content to share with everyone, put
Right.
online, post, people watch it. So it's just not realistic for one person to be the end viewer. It's supposed to be visible by thousands of people.
Right.
And as soon as you enter that, that's when it becomes a legal issue.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
But okay, so your YouTube channel, you put all of your weddings, all the wedding videos you do on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel with my wife. If you just go on YouTube and type in Canon Weddings with 2 N's, Canon, that's all. I think every single video we've done for the past like 4 or 5 years is on there, except for like, I think there's been 2 or 3 that have just been maybe like a couple that their vibe or just something about it didn't quite fit right, and we didn't want it to be an example of our work. So what we
Right.
do in that case, we upload the video and we just leave it as unlisted so that the couple can have the link and watch the video, but maybe we don't want to have it out there as a representation of our work. That's happened a few times. It's mostly just kind of, maybe the couple is kind of weird or they're just kind of whatever, but
Right.
99% of them are out there and people can watch them, and that gives us some revenue every month, maybe like a few $100 here and there just from the views and that kind of thing. But
Wow.
yeah, and that's another reason I want to have music that I have the rights to and that I can monetize on YouTube legally and make income from it.
Right. How long are these videos? How long are these wedding videos?
Hours vary. I think the shortest that we've done in the past few years is anywhere like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, and then the longest maybe 8 or 9 minutes, just somewhere in there. So I'd say about 7 is pretty average. I know some videographers who do much longer ones, and I know some who put out 1-minute highlights, but those are generally accompany a longer video. We've found it with, we have a 6, 8, and 10-hour package, and so the 6 would be like a 4 to 5 minute video, the 8-hour would be like a 5 to 6 minute video, and then the 10-hour would be like a 7 to 8 minute video. It just depends how much content I'm able to get on the day.
Right.
Yeah, however long package they book.
Do they all end up coming out about the same though? I mean, so like, if I want to watch them on your channel, like, how
Yeah.
do you differentiate the videos? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, more or less, I think they do come out about the same. Like, if I were to be booked for an 8 or a 10-hour package, you probably won't tell that much of a difference in the length. They'll probably be anywhere from
oh,
6
I just
to
mean
8.
with regards to like all the shots. Like the opening scene is a drone scene. Like it's a drone
Right.
scene on every single one. Like, how do you differentiate all your videos so that way, like me getting married is different from Joe getting
Yeah.
married? You know what I mean?
I mean, the thing that differentiates is all the content is you and the couple.
Right.
Every couple is completely different. So even if I were to cut every single video exactly the same
Right.
to each couple, they would be unique. But I mean, I mix it up. So what mixes it up for me is the song, and so like the flow of the song I go with. So there might be more crescendos in one, there might be more slow parts in another, and I intermix like. I'll get a song with lyrics and without lyrics and stack them and kind of alternate, weaving back and forth. So I'll have lyrics, I'll dip to no lyrics, and that's where we hear the couple's voices and like the vows they're saying. I'll come back up to lyrics, I'll dip again, and then you hear the officiant's voice. And it's just kind of this weave, and that's why it takes 40 hours to produce one of these.
Dude, that is incredible. Oh my goodness. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. I can only imagine the editing that goes into that. I can't imagine. So do you pick, I guess you can't pick the song first. You have to edit it down, right, to a certain extent.
The steps are basically I ingest all the footage, organize it to like first look, ceremony, reception, like all these different files, and then I go through every single clip and kind of pick clips, but I don't do any like actual editing until I've cut everything down, and then I look at kind of the vibe of the day and the couple, and I look for songs, and that sometimes it's easy, sometimes it takes 10 minutes, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 hours and my brain is dead. But I find a song that I think really fits the couple and the vibe, lay that down, and then I start adding video to match the beats and honestly, I don't think I've ever actually used a song without cutting it and editing it about 20 or 30 different ways. Like I'm always kind of, it's like, I want it to pick up here, but it doesn't actually pick up in the song for 30 more seconds. So I have to find a beat to cut on and move this clip over and kind of weave it in. But it's a long process.
I gotta go check that out, man. It sounds crazy. I can only imagine what goes into that. So what's the biggest mistake that you've made in the business? Have you made any big mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, early on, we made lots of just little things that we kind of just kicked ourselves later for. Like at first, we weren't charging enough for retainers. What we do now is let's say someone books a $4,000 package, we charge 25% of that upfront, so like $1,000 upfront. If they book a larger package, it's obviously more, but whatever it is, it's 25% we require as a retainer. Once they pay that, they don't owe 100%. They now owe 75% of that grand total of what it was, and their date is locked down for whenever they pay us. They give us a contract that's locked down. When we first started out, our retainers, we were only requiring a tiny amount, like $250 or whatever. And so some people would, let's say, book us for like August 15th. Here's your $250. 2 or 3 months go by, and then they come back and like, yeah, we're gonna go a different direction. We found someone else. Well, we've already turned away 3 couples for that date because we had it locked down, and all they got is $250. But that's why now we require so much more of an investment up front, so they're less likely to back out. So that was one mistake we made, is not charging enough in retainers up front. We've also edited our contract a bunch with like cancellation policies, change of date policies. We have things in place if people want to do that. And we, charge different amounts for different ones just so that they don't do that. Man, other things, just like the being very vigilant about backing things up multiple places. Like if I shot a wedding last weekend, I have it on 3 internal hard drives, a RAID, and another external hard drive. So if one of them crashes, I'm okay. I have it backed up and I won't lose the footage. I think there was maybe like 1 or 2 times where we had scares with that early on, where like a drive would die or we'd somehow lose some footage, like where is this, or photography. And so just things like that we've just kind of learned as we've gone and made sure that we've covered all our bases.
You like lose the I do footage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's also why I shoot so many angles and then I back it up in so many places. But yeah.
Right, dude, that is incredible.
I think there was one wedding where my wife put one, she'll probably go through 3 or 4 different cards in her camera during the day and we'll put them aside. And I think the very last card that had the bouquet toss, the exit, a couple things on it, one wedding we had, I'm not saying which one, we couldn't find that card. So what we had to do was, I luckily filmed a lot of that in 4K and we were able to take screenshots and deliver those as the photos for just those few little moments. But luckily it's only happened once and we've been okay. So just things like that.
Knock on wood, of course.
Oh yeah.
Right. So how often do people cancel that often on you though?
I think it's happened maybe 3 or 4 times out of roughly 100 plus weddings over the past few years. And we've had a couple instances where someone had to move the date. Like there'll be a death in the family, or someone gets pregnant, or someone gets, loses their job, or just different things that they can't really control. And so we'll do our best to kind of work with people, but we have policies in place, and we're business, we pretty much stick with them if someone backs out or cancels or changes their date.
That's awesome, man. Are you able to drive any business from YouTube in particular, or is that just more like an AdSense revenue?
We've gotten, in a couple different ways, we've gotten business from YouTube. We started doing these behind the scenes videos last year where my wife would have a photo shoot and she'd be doing her thing. Oh my gosh, you've got to watch some of these, because she's just her personality, her ability to direct and make people comfortable, I think is 90% of the success of our business, and it's what's made us grow. But I would go on these photo shoots and film her directing photo shoots and the couples, the reactions, and we put some of these videos out, and people have seen those and then wanted to book us for their wedding, for photo shoots, because of watching my wife and how she kind of interacts and directs couples and stuff. So that's one way we've kind of driven business with YouTube. And then the other is people will see our videos, our wedding videos, and book us. And that's happened a few times, but mostly it's been Instagram. A little bit's come from YouTube. And then, yeah, like you said, the ad revenue is something as well.
Right. Yeah. You added, it's on top. So, what was I going to say? I'm sorry. That's awesome, man. Have y'all spent any money on advertising whatsoever?
I think the first year we started, I think we spent maybe $20 on Facebook, and it didn't do much. That's it. We've been really lucky. There's also if you get into this wedding sphere, there's 4 or 5 big websites that brides will kind of go to in search of kind of directories for photographers and caterers and that kind of thing. And a lot of people, we know photographers who will pay thousands a year to be on those and to be featured on those. But so far we haven't. We may in the future if we needed to, but so far we haven't had to do that.
Dude, that is so crazy. So very organic. I mean, because anytime you start a business, I mean, you have to factor in advertising, but you guys
Yeah.
have organically gotten
Yeah.
all your business.
Well, actually, I had a friend I was talking to a few weeks ago, and he pointed something interesting out that I hadn't really noticed, and that was we've paid for advertising, but we've paid with our time and our effort, because
Right.
what we do is we create like visual advertising for ourselves through, you know, our products, our photos and videos. So even though we haven't put monetary, like put money behind it, we've put our time and our energy into it. And I didn't want to cut you off, but we're about to get to 1 hour. I didn't know if there's going to be an issue with the website, if it cut
No,
to 1 hour or
no,
anything.
no, no, we're good. Do you need to go or anything? Are you good on time?
No, I'm good.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. So I do kind of like a similar thing. So I record all my jobs. I put them on YouTube, but I also cut them down to a length where they're palatable on
Yes.
Facebook as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of double dip in that sense. And I think the more, like, the further we go in the future, like as businesses become even more competitive, people are going to want to see the work that people do. And I think there's going to be, more opportunity for people to film the jobs and then get business based off of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know why this made me think of it, but there's I don't know if you're a big Disney fan or if you have Disney Plus or not, but there's
Mhm.
a new series, like A Day at Disney, where they literally spent one day and followed like 80 different people in their type of job and showed like what they put into it. And so,
No
yeah,
way.
people love seeing it. People like seeing other people and things they're not familiar with, you know, told in kind of a story form. So I'm
Right.
also a big Disney nerd. I don't know if I mentioned that, but
No, dude, I love Disney. So
yeah.
I'm gonna have to look at you, bro. I'm gonna have to my debit card is actually Disney. I'd show
My
it, but
credit card is too.
come on, don't show it. But
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That is super cool. I'm gonna check that out. They followed him around. But a lot of the videos that do really well on YouTube are like day in the life of X that
Mhm.
people have never seen. Like I saw a
Yep,
UPS driver that got 1 million views.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Even like when people started recording themselves doing their vending businesses, they
Yeah,
like I cover a lot of those people. So
it's
they
cool.
blew up because no one knew what it was like, you
Yeah,
know?
it's super interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to check out that show though. Did they show like the landscapers and how they go out
Yeah,
at
they
night?
do like everything. Like, so there was one guy who's literally his job is to put on scuba gear and clean on the water rides, like underneath, and he finds ridiculous stuff like dropped. I mean, there's everything, janitors and, you know, designers, everything.
Dang, can you imagine if like they did like a YouTube series following those guys
It'd
around
be
and just
cool.
like
I mean, they did the Disney Plus series, but
right,
yeah, that YouTube, that'd be sick. Like,
as if Disney needs any more promotion, you
I
know?
know, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, so you got Disney Plus, I
Oh
guess?
yeah, yeah, we've got it. We're good to
Might
go.
be
We're actually going to Disneyland in like 5 or 6 weeks, so I'm
come
excited. I've
on,
never been out
man.
there. Yeah,
Have you ever been to Disney World?
yeah, I've been to Disney World. We lived in Central Florida when I was like 5 or 6 for a few years. So my grandparents took me like all the time, and then I took
Right.
my wife this past year for the first time. But we're going to Disneyland, so that's gonna be fun.
Never been to Disneyland before?
Nope.
I'd be curious to see, the differences between the two, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. There's a lot of them. I'm excited.
Absolutely. It's like it's probably a whole different vibe out there, you
Oh
know?
yeah, it's a lot smaller, but it's the nostalgia. It's the original, so it's gonna be cool.
Right. No, that'd be awesome, man. So I kind of want to shift gears a little bit into talking about Bryce a little bit, talking about the
Yes.
docu-series.
Yes.
So can you give us like how did you guys even start, or do you even want like tell the people what it is basically?
Yeah,
And Bryce
absolutely.
have?
So for those of you watching who may not know, Bryce Doug Nasty Mitchell, he's a featherweight UFC fighter. I met him at school at Harding University. We were in a geology class, and that's how I met him. And it was fate because like it's just hilarious how we met. I was transitioning. I had just gotten my first DSLR, and I was transitioning from like a point and shoot videographer who really didn't know what he was doing into like learning like film and you know having a vision in what I was producing. So I met him, and I was a big MMA fan. I was like, hey man, I just want to film you. Like, when's your next fight? I want to film like a documentary on that. This is in 2013. So early 2014, he had a fight on Valentine's Day in 2014, which is hilarious. But I followed him for like 6 weeks, filmed all the kind of stuff, and I just did this short documentary, and it was really fun. And he won his fight, and he's actually undefeated since I started filming him. So
you better keep going,
anyway, except for the Ultimate Fighter, he lost on there. So nothing to jinx it. But
were you filming him then? You weren't
no,
filming him.
I couldn't be on the Ultimate Fighter. It was all closed door. But anyway, so yeah, we started filming, and then he had a next fight like a couple months later. I was like, I'm just gonna come and film you at the fight, like not put 6 weeks in it, but just kind of come. And then I did that, and then again, and he went. So I met him after his like 7th amateur fight, and then he went 13-1 as an amateur, and I filmed a lot of them, and then he went pro. I graduated, we moved off campus, we were living together, and I just kept going to his fights and filming them. And along the way, it was just kind of a scattered mess of just random videos as I was kind of figuring out my style and how I wanted things to look and what was working, and I would try something different for this one. And then eventually I kind of got married, we moved away, but I'm about 5 hours from him, so I go over as often as I can. But yeah, early 2019, he was on The Ultimate Fighter. No, that's not right. Was it 2018? I can't remember. Time, man, as you're getting old, time.
Yeah, early 2018. It should
2018. So.
Right. Or he didn't just come off The Ultimate Fighter, huh?
Yeah, it was 2018. So he was on there. And then he did well on the show, and then he was going to have his first fight summer of 2018.
And that Ultimate Fighter was the undefeated Ultimate Fighter. Every fighter on that.
So he came in at 9-0. He was like the highest. He had the most fights, like pretty much anyone on the show. He was 9-0. I filmed the most of them, and he won his first fight, lost his second fight. It was kind of silly. I honestly think if his normal coaching and everything had been there, I think he would have done well. He had a couple injuries, but anyway, he made a mistake. Brad Katona capitalized on it. He lost the fight. It's all good. Brad's a cool dude. I met him. So he did well on the show. And he came back in the finale, beat Tyler Diamond, who was the favorite going into the show, and got his contract. Yeah, he got his contract secured. So at that point, he was 10-0. But let me back up a little bit. I knew he was fighting on the Ultimate Fighter finale like months before they announced it or anything. And so what I did was I went out to Arkansas and I was filming with him. I was like getting this content ready, and it was annoying because I couldn't say anything because they hadn't announced, because they didn't air the last episode till like the week before the finale because they didn't want people to know. So I had all this content. I couldn't put it out. I couldn't post anything. But went out to Vegas with 3 episodes in my back pocket ready to drop on YouTube, and I spent the whole week in Vegas with him filming as much as I possibly could before the finale. And then as soon as they announced the episode aired, I dropped episode 1, dropped episode 2, and like kind of went throughout the week. It was amazing, man. It was the first time I'd been like in the inner circle of the UFC, backstage, like at check-in and media signings and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of filming the process and meeting like everyone that I'd seen on TV for so long. We met.
It's probably surreal, huh?
We met Israel Adesanya. Was the first dude. We walked in the room. Bryce sits down. Israel's there signing some stuff, and it was before he really broke out because he was the headliner at the card with Bryce. Anyway, he's such a cool dude. I messaged him on like WhatsApp a little bit and like was congratulating him and stuff. He's the only contact I have on WhatsApp, which is just hilarious. I've never used it, but so filmed that, and we started this series called Homegrown Fighter. And man, Bryce is just a good old boy, like a Southern kid, hardworking, as genuine as can be, just like selfless and just, I don't know, just super nice and courteous and anything. Anyway, so we started, I just thought homegrown, like that just described him super well, because his whole kind of shtick and his premise is he's not leaving Arkansas. Like everyone's offered him, AKA Daniel Cormier tried to recruit him. He's really good friends with Al Iaquinta and Aljamain Sterling in New York and Long Island. He's trained with them a few times. They'd love him to move up there, but his thing is like, look, I'm going to stick it out. These are the people who got me to where I am. Obviously, it's working. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to live, you know, on the cheapest area in the U.S. and pocket all this money and be making good money and like living on a farm. And so this series just developed of, you know, filming just his life and his style and his training. And so, you know, he won his fight. The episodes did pretty well. He ripped his nutsack open with a drill.
Oh, dude, don't tell me. I can't, dude. Please don't tell me.
I'm not going to say anything other than what's out. Like, I'm not going to go into it. But he called me and told me about it. It's like, oh, my gosh. So I went out, filmed, kind of interviewed him, talked to him about it, all that kind of. But the point is he does stuff that's just ridiculous that gets attention, but he's not intending to get attention. He's just living his life. But now the public eye is on him and they're fascinated. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going to show this, and the views just keep rolling in. So He had another fight in Nashville, which was, it was so frustrating. I had a wedding booked for months on the day of the fight in Nashville. So Bryce is fighting in Bridgestone Arena, 20 minutes from me, but I have to be 30 minutes south of here at a wedding because I've been booked for it. I couldn't back out of the contract, but I got to hang out with him, film him that week. He won fight of the night. That jettisoned his career again. It just keeps like going. And then, as everyone knows, some people might not know if they're not big MMA fans, but like a few weeks ago on ESPN, he landed the second only submission by Twister in UFC history, which is just a ridiculously complex, painful submission, and that just skyrocketed him again. So this whole process, every fight, I'm just putting out as much content as I can, trying to build this Homegrown Fighter series. And if anyone's watched the series, you'll see TJ Brown is Bryce's main training partner. They've been training together for like 8 years. He's a fantastic fighter as well. He's gotten a lot of bad breaks in his career, just bad decisions and silly crap. But I think he's 14-6. He should be closer to like 20-3 or something. But he just I went with him to Vegas on the Contender Series in August. He won his fight. It was an insane fight. And so I launched kind of this same series, a Homegrown Fighter, but some TJ episodes in there too. So it's just been a fun, crazy ride, and I'm just kind of going along with it. And any opportunity I get, I'm filming with Bryce, and he's honestly my best friend. He was the best man in my wedding. We lived together for years, and even if he was like fighting in a barn somewhere and no one was watching, I'd still be there filming him and hanging out with him. But he just happens to be on ESPN in front of millions of people and going viral, so it's pretty cool.
Dude, man, that was incredible. I was gonna ask you, how do you film them if you have a wedding planned? But I guess you just kind of work around it as best you can.
It's frustrating. Like we have this year, let's say we booked 20 weddings. That's only, that's 32 free weekends where we don't have a wedding. So we play the odds, and chances are, if it fights twice out of 52, it's gonna be on one of those 32 weekends that were free. But it's just playing the odds. I don't know, because they don't book. I mean, he'll probably fight in May or June, and they'll probably book his fight in like March or April. But by then it's too late. Like if they book it on a day when I have a wedding, there's nothing I can do at that point. I just have my fingers crossed that I'm free. But the worst case scenario is he has a fight on the day I'm booked for a wedding. 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time, I go out to Arkansas, I film with him as much content as I can, and then during fight week, I put that content out and promote the fight and just kind of do my part to help get people to watch it. And then sucks that I can't be there, but and then if I'm not booked for a wedding, you better believe I'm flying to wherever the heck he's fighting, and I'm gonna have content from Arkansas, and I'm gonna film all the fight week and put out as much as I can. But
dude, that is so cool. So you're more so just because at the same time you're building his brand, with all those homegrown fighters, especially as he like gets bigger and bigger and bigger. People are gonna be looking into him. You have all this footage here.
It's so cool, like. And it's funny, like people ask me like, how did I get in with him? How much do I get paid? All this stuff. Okay, you want to know how much money I've made from Bryce? I've made $0 in the past 8 years, whatever it is. And there's a lot of reasons. One was, the main one's he's freaking broke until like just recently. He had made like 10 grand over like 8 or 9 fights. That's nothing. Like, that's like a month worth or a couple months worth of income. But anyway, so like I never asked him. I never asked to be paid. I didn't care to be paid. I was doing it because I love him and I wanted to help him get out there. And so, but now recently, obviously he's had good fights. He's kind of come into money. He and his management team like see what I'm doing. They appreciate it. So they're starting to incorporate me into some of his like sponsorship packages. So if people are wanting to sponsor Bryce, give him money to help fund his stuff, they'll give me a small cut of it moving forward because they've seen the value. And, I'm trying to get a little bit, and it's not much at this point. It's still not. But when he starts making that Conor McGregor money, he's going to be paying me good. I know it because he's told me like, he wants to pay me more, but it's just it hasn't worked out so far. But it's okay. I just
love him. Yeah, that's why you do it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
he's got a great personality. I feel like there's nobody really like him in the UFC, especially when they do those after show interviews. After fight interviews.
And it's funny too. Like oh my gosh, he's a mess. Like if he were to actually speak his mind on everything, some people would be like just freaked out because he's just hilarious. He believes in conspiracies and all this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, he's hilarious. But at the same time, he's charismatic and he's funny and he's genuine. So people are just drawn to him. And the thing I love about Bryce is when I follow him around and hang out with him, like we'll go to the cafeteria at the school he goes to, and he'll literally, like, the lunch ladies know him. He hugs everybody. He says hi. He thanks the people who are working back in the kitchen because they know him. They have a relationship.
Right.
And then he goes and gets tweeted by Donald Trump, but he's also over here thanking Miss Norma, who's the greeter at the cafeteria. So it's just cool.
So he doesn't let it go to his head, is what you're saying.
Not at all. I mean, I feel like everyone probably has a breaking point where if you're making hundreds of millions like Connor, you know, but I don't know. I don't see it with Bryce. Even if he's making like 500 grand, $1 million a fight, I don't see it going to his head ever. We'll just hope it doesn't. But anyway, yeah, he's the same dude I met like 7 or 8 years ago.
That's awesome. I don't like. It's easy to sit here and say, okay, like if I had just want to fight, what would I say in that post fight interview? But I'm sure the adrenaline is pumping. Like you have no control, like you're saying. But like when you watch him, he's poised. He says the right things. He's like, Reebok, give me my camo shorts.
Yeah, and if you've seen the classic when he was fighting for World Series of Fighting, they said, you know, you're such a clean cut, nice guy. Where'd the nickname Thug Nasty come from? He's like, you ain't seen me on the streets, man. I'm straight thug. Like, that's just gold. I think he's either like super lucky or he's a savant, and I'm not sure which one it is, because the things that he says and kind of how everything plays out, I think it's just because he's genuine and it's just lucky, like people kind of attach onto it. But I also, part of me is like, is he a genius and we just can't see it yet?
Right.
That's all planned out. It's hard to say.
Because when you look at the blueprint for how you blow up on the UFC, obviously Connor is like the clearest thing. Like obviously well-spoken, you just call your shot, you do whatever the fuck you want to do.
You call people out, you talk crap.
Right. So how do you kind of replicate that? And I can't imagine being in that position and trying to like formulate this plan, you know, with all that adrenaline, everything else that goes into it, you know. So I just, you know, you can really respect that and the way he handles himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, man. What was like the biggest thing that like really surprised you about the entire UFC? Because like you said, you have you got an inside look into like everything. What like really surprised you, you know?
Yeah.
Because like when we watch the main card, or when we watch the cards, you know, all we see is the arena, and we hear the commentators and everything else. Like behind the scenes, what was like the biggest thing? Oh, did I lose you, kid?
I'm there. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. Did you get my question? I need to say one more time.
I got it. So yeah, what kind of surprised me about the UFC and the machine that it is? It's hard to say because I feel like I'd been around enough people. Like Bryce's coach was a UFC fighter, and I've been around him a long time, and I listen to Joe Rogan. I hear a lot of that, so I don't think I was caught too much off guard. But I guess the most impressive thing, let's say, is just the sheer number of people that they have working. Like at an event, hundreds of dudes in blue shirts backstage, like running everything. Really? And so like at check-in, everything is planned months in advance. There's spreadsheets for everything. They know what's happening. They know who's coming, and everyone has a place to be at like every minute of the day. So, you know, it was just impressive to see it all work, because I've been at like World Series of Fighting backstage and that kind of thing, and it's the levels, like it just doesn't really compare. So I guess that's the most like impressive, or what caught me off guard the most, was just the sheer like organization that goes into it. Because I mean, it's a $4 billion company, and this is their product. Like they know what they're doing, and they have it. You know, they have everything strategized.
Yeah. But as a fan, I mean, we really don't see all that, man. It's like, why can't we just make these fights happen? Like, what are we waiting for?
Oh my gosh, people just don't get it unless you run a business. When you run a business, you start understanding when you see other businesses and what they have to do. You start to at least understand it. You might not understand the scale, but you can at least appreciate. But another thing that kind of took me aback, and just it's kind of frustrating, but I get it at the same time, is they have policies for everything. And so like when I wanted to be backstage, like at the Contender Series filming TJ for his fight, like it was just zero chance. Like they're like, nope, absolutely not. They wouldn't let me. For Bryce's fight at an actual UFC event, I have been granted backstage access and permission and like media credentials and that kind of stuff. But it's I actually had to get like approval straight from Dana White to be backstage and film with Bryce at his first UFC event, because I like there's like different people who run like PR and that kind of stuff, and they can give me credentials to go to like media things and be front of house and do that. But when it comes to being backstage during fight night, the only people who could approve that is like Dana White, and like that's just about it. Maybe like Ari Emanuel, but no one's gonna ask him. So it's pretty much just upper level executives. So it's pretty crazy.
Dude, that is wild. So like
Yeah.
you had to be cleared basically to go backstage.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I met Dana 3 weeks or 4 weeks before Bryce's UFC debut. I
Oh
was
wow.
filming for V3 Fights in Memphis. I did a lot of their like production stuff, 2018, 2019, and Dana came. They did a looking for a fight at our event. And so I was there running, like producing, like shooting the show, getting highlights and that kind of stuff. And I met him a couple days before at like kind of one of the filmings for looking for a fight. And then after the fight was over, I was breaking down my gear and stuff, grabbed my camera, put a light on it, went outside and found him as he was getting into the van to like drive away. I was like, hey, Dana, can I ask you a few questions? I did like a short interview, put it on my Instagram. That was pretty cool. It's kind of nerve wracking. Like,
Dude, I'll have to check it out.
but he's honestly the nicest dude. Like every time I've seen him interact with people, like fans or just ordinary people, he's just super nice. He takes his time. He'll listen to people. He'll stop, shake hands, take photos, do all that kind of stuff that he's done millions of times, but he still takes time to do it. He's a really nice guy. And, I understand why fighters, some don't like him. And it's because he's a businessman. Like he's making money for himself. He's not giving you more than he thinks you deserve. Like you have to earn it. And, so if you're a fighter and, they can make an argument that they're underpaid, they're not getting what they deserve. I get it. But as far as a person, Dana White's a really nice guy. I really like him.
Man, I can't. You were probably pretty nervous when you met him, huh?
Yeah, I was. It was fun though. I love meeting people that I'm like, am I supposed to be meeting this person?
Right.
I'll do it anyway.
And we see him like on the big screen, man. We see him, you watch YouTube videos about him and just all kind of stuff like that. And like when you finally meet him in person, he's just a normal dude. I mean, at the end of the day,
everybody is.
Like just like Israel, just like any of these big stars. Even if you met Connor, dude, I'd be so nervous to meet Connor. I'd be like,
I was this close to meeting John Kavanagh. Actually, no, I did meet John Kavanagh. I was that close to meeting him again. So like backstage at Bryce's fight, like I had a little talk with like Artem Lobov and John Kavanagh. But I went by SBG Ireland when I was in Dublin a few months ago. We shot a wedding in Ireland, and I was like, all right, I have to go to the gym. I'm driving, like it's 20 minutes away, but I'm going to go and just check it out. And so, but John wasn't there at the time. I think he had been there earlier, but anyway.
Can you just go into it? Like,
And so it's so funny. In 2009, I went to TriStar, which was Georges St. Pierre's gym, like in Montreal. And literally there was no one. But you just walk right in, and I could have walked out on the mat and started training. No one would have said a word, because in 2009, no one knew what the UFC was. Right. It had like a 2% market share or something. Like it was just nothing. And so I met Kenny Florian, and like I don't know, I just walked into the gym. It was nothing. 10 years later, 2019, walk into SBG Ireland. I couldn't walk past the front door without them being like, can I help you? What do I wasn't going anywhere. And I walked up, I was like, hey, I'm friends with this UFC fighter. I met John Kavanagh a few weeks ago. I was just going to say hi, whatever. And they're like, oh, he's not here. Like, go away, basically. Right. They let me walk around the gym and just look at it really quick, but then I had to head out. But it's like in 10 years, just that little example of how far MMA has come, just how strict like the big gyms are now and stuff. Like you're not just walking in off the street, like you're gonna get screened and stuff these days.
Right. They were like, we know you're looking for Connor. We know
exactly. They're like, get out.
And I wonder what like the difference is, like, because the UFC signed with ESPN, which I thought was obviously a great move for the UFC because how big ESPN is. But I wonder like what's really changed since then, besides like us just seeing the undercard on ESPN, Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you mean like in the gyms? Like what would have changed? Like
no, I just mean like I wonder how much exposure the UFC has really gotten and from that side of it,
Yeah. Oh, for sure, man. The ESPN thing was next level, I think, because like Fox. Like some people would, I'm sure a lot of people watch stuff on Fox, but ESPN is just synonymous with sports. Like, you can mention ESPN to anybody. Everyone knows what you're talking about. Fox Sports, like, yeah, sure, that's a channel, I guess. But ESPN, everyone's like, well, duh, it's ESPN. Like, who doesn't watch ESPN? When you walk into any like locker room or gym in the world, ESPN's on the screen. Like, SportsCenter's on 24/7.
Right, absolutely.
So being on that channel, man, like, I don't know. I haven't seen any numbers, but I can only imagine how much of a bump it was.
Right. And I bet if the UFC would have got on ESPN like 5 years ago, because I mean, if you think about how streaming has really taken over and we watch what we want to watch, before then it was like everybody had cable and you just put on ESPN, you know?
Exactly.
I can only imagine how much that would have changed it. But I mean, obviously, huge move.
I know a lot of people have been annoyed with the switch to ESPN Plus, and it is frustrating. Like, my brother was over for the December, whenever the Colby and Usman card a few weeks ago.
Right.
And he's been watching MMA since like 08. I've been watching MMA since like 09. We've literally watched like every event in the world. We know how it goes. We know how to like switch from one channel. Like, we know where things are going to come on when like most of the casual fans don't even know there's an early prelims or whatever, or even a prelim. But when we were struggling to get it on and like, okay, I'm logged into this, so this is going to be on ESPN, which means I have to have a provider. I'm going to log in with my parents' account because they still have cable, and I'm going to watch it. Then I'm going to switch to this app and then go to ESPN Plus for this, and then I bought the pay-per-view. It's ridiculous. But with all that said, I appreciate what they're doing, because 2023, 2025, like, no one's going to be watching cable anymore. It's all just going to be completely streaming, and we will have gotten used to the process by then of where everything is, and everything will be on ESPN Plus by then.
It'll be more seamless as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad they got ahead of the curve, and a lot of people are annoyed by it, but I like it. I mean, it's like $5 a month. I don't pay for cable. That's like $80 a month, but I pay for ESPN Plus. It's $5. You know?
Me too. Because the prelims are gonna be on it, and like that UFC 245 card, they had some amazing prelims on there. I want to talk to you about that in a second, but like before we get into that, what's your plan going forward with Bryce and the docu-series? Just like to continue that and just see where it goes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if I lived in Arkansas, I'd be putting out a video every week at least. Like, but I live 5 hours away. It's just far enough to be annoying to drive, because I have to get a hotel. Like, I have to put that much more effort into it. But yeah, absolutely. He's doing a seminar in Memphis, like a jiu-jitsu seminar, I think in March. And I was texting him earlier, and he's planning to come over. So I'm going to spend at least a day with him there filming and get some more content up. I'm trying to get him to come up to Nashville to the jiu-jitsu gym here in town and train with a few of my friends and just get as many opportunities as I can to get with him and get him in different situations and filming him. So it's definitely I'm still pursuing it as much as I can. I want to put out, anytime he has a fight, definitely videos will be coming out. But I'm hoping to put out more even in between as well. So yeah, it's not slowing down.
No, absolutely. And I wish y'all were closer so you could even put out more content on them. As far as the structure of them, because I remember whenever I first contacted you, I was like, dude, these look exactly like the UFC Embedded series. Did you purposely structure them like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching Embedded since they like came out, and I loved the style of it. There's a lot of reasons. One, it's very, unless you're an editor, people probably wouldn't think that much about it, but it's very conducive to putting out content quickly because there is no music. Like, that makes the editing way easier. And honestly, like, I think that Embedded is easier than what I do. It's larger scale because they're covering more people, so they have at least 2 or 3 teams. I know a few of the guys who do it, but like, in an episode, if your job is to follow Colby Covington, that episode, he might be on there for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes tops. Because Usman, you'll have like Nunes, you'll have like multiple different people. When I do a video on Bryce, I have to have so much more content because I'm trying to fill at least 5, if not 7, 8, 10 minutes with just one dude. So that much content, what I have for one video is what they'll have for maybe like 5 or 6 videos. So it ends up being a lot more like heavier workload on me to like put them out. But the style of it, yeah, it was definitely inspired by them. I like the natural sounds that you have. I like going to the coach, going to the fighter, and then watching the B-roll of them training while you're hearing the voices, the people talking. And I really like the style. So I used to do videos of each of Bryce's fight where I'd pick a music song and like kind of build it up, and it was a lot more stylized. But I was like, I can't do that if I'm trying to put stuff out quickly. It just takes too much time and effort and creativity. So I'm like, I like the style. It's just documentary. It's straight. It's raw. And I'm like, I'm sticking with it. And I actually I'm going to grab this really quick because I'm proud of it.
No, you're good.
I just purchased this. So this is a shoulder rig, and it's going to make my job about 1,000,000 times easier when I'm filming Bryce, because when I was filming one of the last videos with him, I was interviewing his strength coach. It was about a 9.5-minute interview, and I was holding like a 10-pound camera like this. And by the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, my arms are dead. So
Right.
okay, I'm getting a shoulder rig. I'm set. It's just like so much easier. So that's going to be very handy moving forward.
That's going to be beautiful.
So find ways to make it better and make my job easier.
Right. All right. So like, would you ever consider like doing, promotion recording, like if it paid enough, like to go onto the UFC and like be one of the guys who follows the fighters? You know what I mean? Would you ever consider that?
I would, and I've thought about it a good bit. So no one's gonna know who this guy is probably, but you've seen his work. So the UFC's director of photography, his name's Alex Merriman, and he's like incredible. He's like won Emmy awards and all kinds of stuff for all his work with the UFC. And I've talked to him just about every event that I've been to. I've tracked him down and talked to him and kind of asked questions and stuff. And I have zero doubt that tomorrow I could hop in on any one of these crews and like be contributing, like pulling my weight and like doing it. So
right.
Like I said earlier, I always want to be freelance and I never want to be like tied down to a corporation. But
if you were going to be tied down,
caveats. One is Disney and one is UFC. And if either of them, the opportunity came up and it was something I really wanted to do and the pay was right, I would do it. The only thing to consider for sure is I have a wife and we would have to probably relocate. So like the UFC, Alex actually lives in LA, but the UFC is based in Vegas and he's there like all the time. So more than likely I would have to live in Vegas if I did that. I don't have any interest in living in Vegas. Like the whole scene and lifestyle doesn't appeal to me, but it is a pretty cool town once you leave the strip, and like it's in the desert, but there's mountains, there's rock climbing, there's like different stuff, and I'd be okay with it.
right.
So if the opportunity came up and like I had the right connection, the right offer, I think I would take it.
How do you even get in front of them in that way though?
Well, I mean, the one way is literally they do job postings. Like you can search for jobs at the UFC and apply for them just like any other company. Like they have them online. I've seen them. But more realistically is knowing the hiring manager, knowing someone who's like looking to fill this position. And the more I go to UFC events, the more I'm like hanging out, bumping elbows with people like working in the same environments, the more people I'm going to meet. I have probably like 6 or 7 decent contacts at the UFC right now, people I've like worked with and gotten approval and like applied for credentials and stuff that I could kind of reach out to. But it would just come down to like deciding, 100% I'm ready to relocate. Let's do it. And I think I could probably get a job there. But I don't know. I like what would kind of be ideal for me. And if I ever run into Dana White, I actually probably will mention it to him, is if the UFC would just kind of like do contract labor with me as a freelancer to produce Homegrown Fighter, and then it be distributed on the UFC's platform. So it'd be a UFC content. I would be in charge of producing it, and they would just pay me to do it, and I could keep doing what I'm doing. I would do that in a heartbeat. Like I think that would be amazing. Just like putting out Homegrown Fighter content. I've talked to other fighters too. There's like Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman is in Knoxville. He's kind of grown up in Tennessee. He would fit pretty well. I ran into him in Vegas last summer. Eric Anders, like he's from Texas, but he's mostly grown up in like Alabama. He played for Alabama. He's a really Southern dude. He's pretty cool. I've met him a couple times. I've considered like him, but it's just a matter of getting that funding going. But I think it could be something the UFC, like, under the right situation and circumstances, it could be something that they might be interested in. But
right, because ultimately they're investing, because whenever you do those series, you can develop that relationship with the fighters and then you want to watch them more. So I think that's a good idea. Right. I also think that they need to overhaul that UFC app, because like me even after I talked to you, I was trying to find the Ultimate Fighter one with Bryce on it. It is so hard.
Yeah, they just redid their website too, like a month or so ago, and it made it much harder to find stuff. Like UFC Fight Pass, like they made that much harder to find stuff too. The flow of it looks nice, and like the aesthetic is pretty cool, like from a design standpoint. But
Yeah. Even when you're searching, like I'll search his name or whatever, or any fighter's name for that matter, and it just brings up random fights. It doesn't bring up like their caricature, and then
Yeah,
you can find all the fights under there. They really need to figure that out, man. So
yeah,
we think that ESPN money could be put towards something like that, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can see all the stuff they put the money towards, though. It's like the production and like I don't know, redesigning the website, and it looks nice, but they need to work on the functionality for sure.
Right, because like I want to watch all the series, but it's so hard to find. I don't know what came first. Like obviously I know that, Tough or The Ultimate Fighter is up to however many
Like
seasons, but like
29 or 30 or something. Yeah,
right, but they should be showcasing like even Daniel White's Contender series,
yeah,
I don't know when the last time I even heard about that was,
yeah. He doesn't do it very much. Oh wait, no, Contender Series he does. He doesn't do Looking for a Fight much because he's so busy. But
Right,
yeah,
and I've never seen one of those before
really,
either.
they're fun. I like them. Yeah,
Right. So I just feel like if they worked on the layout, they worked on the way they present things, on there.
hmm
Yeah, maybe follow like a Netflix style type
yeah,
deal where, yeah, I don't know. They could figure something out, I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like.
yeah. Exactly.
Or like a YouTube style even, like where
That's
you
what I
have
was
a
saying. I was like,
browse
YouTube
feature.
the best. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
and then each fighter has their own channel, you know?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Right. And then maybe you could upload natively on there. It has to be approved, but you could upload all the homegrown fighters on there too.
Cool, dude. I am proud. Like, if you go on Google and just search, at least until a couple months ago, if you would just search Bryce Mitchell on Google or YouTube, like my videos are like all right there. I'm like, this is
Dude, that's
awesome.
awesome,
Man,
bro.
the last thing I want to say about Homegrown Fighter before we move on is like
Right.
I put out the series 2018 in the summer for Bryce's fight. I think the most views I got on any of the videos was like 6, 7,000 maybe, but most of them were like 2 or 3, right around there. After the fight, I think one of them got up to maybe around 20. I was like, that's pretty good. Like, I was pretty happy with it. His next fight came around, all those videos bumped up and then averaged like 12 to 15,000 for like the whole series after his Bobby Moffitt fight. It's like, sweet. After this fight, man, one of the videos I put out for this fight, over 85,000, and the rest of them just bumped up. They're averaging probably like 15, 20, 30,000. Like, I'm like, this is awesome. As he keeps going, like, it's just
Right.
the series is just gonna grow. So it's really, really cool.
Right. Because after I saw him do the twister, I was like, dude, I gotta look more into this guy. So then I started looking up interviews of him, and I think that's how I stumbled on Homegrown Fighter, and then that's how I found you.
Yeah.
And then I messaged you off of that. So anybody looking him up is gonna stumble across the series,
And it's funny because like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the only content that would come up on him was mine. Because like no, he wasn't in the UFC. He was maybe not even in World Series of Fighting yet. So like it was all just like jank footage of me filming him cage side at these like dingy little fight cards and stuff. And then
Right.
now it's like boom, like it's all out there.
Dude, so one more question on Bryce. How do you make that leap? Like, how does a fighter make the leap and from like amateurs into UFC? You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was probably, man, he turned pro about 5 years ago. He had a pretty long amateur career. He had 14 amateur fights, went 13-1, and then he decided like he just wasn't getting fights anymore. First off, like people weren't willing to fight him because they knew they were gonna get choked out in about 30 seconds.
Right.
So that's when he went pros, and I think it was in 2015. I did like a pro or an amateur highlight, like to announce his pro thing. And the same organization that he had been fighting for was V3 Fights in Memphis. He had quite a few amateur fights with them. I filmed most of them. He went pro with that organization because they started doing pro fights around the same time. He wanted to go pro, so he kept working with them. They had a decent relationship, I think, with like Sean Shelby and like the UFC. Like they knew who they were, and anybody who was fighting for V3 as a pro was at least being looked at by the UFC. So Bryce kept fighting for them. I think he had 4 or 5 of his pro fights with them, and then he got a couple with World Series of Fighting. And he actually kind of got stuck in a World Series of Fighting contract because they wanted him for a Contender Series the very first season, but he couldn't do it because he was on World Series of Fighting. And then the Ultimate Fighter came around. They finally got World Series to drop his contract so he could go on the Ultimate Fighter. But they knew who he was, like from his when he was 6-0, 7-0, like kind of as he was coming up.
Was that first Contender Series? Was that the one with Sugar Sean O'Malley?
Yeah, it was that same season. I'm pretty sure they
Dude,
wanted
that's
Bryce
where
on one of those first episodes, but he was stuck in that contract. So it all worked out. He got really good exposure from the Ultimate Fighter, and that's how he got into the UFC.
Matt.
But I mean, people don't, for the most part, go from amateur straight into UFC, except like Greg Hardy or like people like that. But
Right.
honestly, I don't know if you made this connection either, but Violent Bob Ross, Luis Pena, he and Bryce went to high school together. They're from the same tiny town in Arkansas. I've known Luis since he was like 15 or 16 or something. And he, man, like if he keeps doing well as he is, 10 years down the road, he could easily have the most fights of anyone that's been in the UFC, like in history. Because I think he's like 6-1 or something like that. And he's already had like 5 UFC fights. It's something ridiculous. So like he got in early, and he's got a good team around him. But most guys don't get in that early. Could have gotten in earlier. He always holds himself back. He doesn't want to take the next step until he's confident and he knows, like, okay, I'm ready. And he, as 6-0, 7-0, he was ready to start choking out UFC fighters. So he's like, let's do it. And then 9-0, he got in.
Dude, how cool is that, man? Yeah, it would have been so cool if you would have been on that first Contender Series. That's where I found Sugar Sean. Yeah. But I mean, everything works out for a reason, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a reason why he wasn't on that one.
Yeah, and they're actually trying to get him and Sugar Sean to fight. Like his manager's kind of pushing for that, which is funny. Sean's like a 135, but he's a little big. He could fight 45, and Bryce has been a small 45 or so. I honestly think they're about the same weight. I think it'd be a good fight. Obviously, I think Bryce would take him, but I think it'd be a fun fight.
It hadn't. Sean hasn't fought in what, 2 years now, at least, because of all the USADA stuff.
Yeah, he like hurt his ankle in that Sukumtat fight. I don't know if he had one after that. He may have, but then yeah, they popped for some ridiculous. Like you can look at him and know he does not do steroids. He's like scrawny.
He's scrawny. Yeah,
it's so funny that he has so much power. It's ridiculous.
I know, dude, and I just love him for his style. You know,
they've got to do him versus Chase Hooper. That would be an interesting one.
I don't know if I've seen Chase Hooper before.
He fought on the Usman undercard like a few weeks ago.
He was on it.
Afro. He's 20 years old. He said he was going to go to the M&M store to celebrate.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, because Joe Rogan was like, how old am I? You know, these kids are running UFC fights and then going to the M&M store.
Yeah. Ben Askren tweeted and said, "Congrats, son," because he had like similar looking afro.
Okay. I don't know. Do I think Sugar Sean would take him? I think Sugar Sean would be probably top of the division if he was fighting.
Yeah, I think he'd be up there. I think he's still got some room to grow, but I think he'd be around the top 10, top 15.
Doesn't Henry Cejudo's got the 135 belt right now, right?
Yeah.
Unless he forfeited it.
Some stuff. Oh, he forfeited the 25, I think, because I think what's his name, Benavidez and Figueredo, maybe somebody's fighting for it. I think it's open, but I'm pretty sure Cejudo's staying.
I wonder what happened to Cejudo though. He hasn't been back in like a while.
I don't know. He's out there acting a fool. I don't know.
Triple C.
Yeah.
He's gonna go fight for a women's belt next.
He frustrates me. I don't think he beat Demetrius. I gave Demetrius 3, if not 4 rounds, but anyway.
If he doesn't beat Demetrius, we wouldn't even be talking about Cejudo. No one would be talking about Cejudo. Yeah. But I think he capitalized on that better than anybody.
Straight out of Colby Covington's playbook on that one.
Right. And then once he did that, he got that fight against TJ, and of course TJ came down a weight class, and he was on whatever he was on, and he just he slapped him early.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was your biggest surprise from UFC 245?
245. That was Covington and Usman.
Yeah, here, like I took a picture of the card before we got on, so I'll just run through the card real quick.
Okay. I think I have it too.
Right. Okay, so like we had let's see, one of the bigger fights was for Uriah Faber versus I forgot what the dude's name was, but that dude, he was so good.
Who did he fight?
Peter Vaughn or whatever.
Peter Yan, dude. Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I figured Yan would slap him pretty easy.
I hadn't seen Yan fight until that fight.
I've seen him. He's good. Faber's, I mean, he's just old, and your body breaks down. Like, I don't know. He still looked good. I thought he still looked pretty good for his age and how long he'd been out. But Moraes and Aldo fight stuck out to me. I thought Aldo won, and I was shocked that he looked so good. I think that was my biggest surprise from the card.
Yeah.
And I like him at 35, which is crazy. I didn't think that, but he looked really good, and I thought he won the fight. And it was funny because Dana's like, we're going to treat this like a win, and Dana wants to give him the title shot. Even though
I would, yeah. He won that fight. I don't know why the refs would have given it to the judges.
it was close, and I could see an argument for it, but he won. Like Aldo won the fight. But I wasn't. I thought Nunes Durandamy was interesting because Durandamy did pretty well, and it went.
I was surprised about how Nunes struggled in that fight.
Yeah, I think people are used to her putting everyone away. And so when she doesn't, they're shocked, but she still looked really good. So if you aren't expecting her to finish it fast, it was a good fight.
It was just some points where Durandamy looked like she could have gotten up or she could have fought to get up. She didn't, you know?
Yeah, just that fatigue and that weight that she was carrying of Nunes, I guess.
Yeah, and it's easy for us to like look back and like point and say.
And I was impressed by Volkanovski. I didn't think he won. I don't know. I don't know. I like Max, and I think that there needs to be more of a definitive, clear-cut answer when someone's a reigning champion and it goes to a decision. Like, I don't know. I think
like he shouldn't have been stripped of it that easily, is what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm. Because, like, again, you could make an argument that Max won, but Volkanovski looked good, and he did really well. So
I just think the leg kicks won it for him. It looked like he really beat Max down, in my opinion.
Yeah, I listened to Max on Joe like the next week, and his like what he was saying about the leg kicks and stuff. Like they hurt, but he didn't. I don't know. They weren't gonna finish him.
I think maybe he made it look like he was doing more work, having made it look like he caused more damage. Maybe that.
That's how it looked. Yeah, but
dude, that Usman Covington fight. Oh my god.
I like Usman a lot. I like watching Covington fight. I don't like listening to him. I don't like anything he does, but I like watching him fight because he's a good fighter. So,
but you've heard his argument, right? That he says that Dana White or the UFC as a whole was they weren't going to give him a title shot. They weren't going to give him anything, and so he kind of started putting on this whole show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, is it annoying? Yeah, it's really annoying. I don't know why he picked that. Like
yeah.
I don't know. I think he's a genuine guy. I've seen interviews with him and he seems like a genuine guy, but then he's got the problems with Jorge Masvidal and it's like, what's the deal? Who's the real Colby?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a shtick and everything, but
I had Colby winning that fight. If he wouldn't have got his jaw broken and he would have I had him winning the fight.
I picked Colby going into the fight. I thought just because of the work rate that he put out against Lawler and everything, and his striking just keeps getting better and better and better. And I kind of wasn't surprised that it never went to the ground or anything.
I love that, dude.
So funny. But yeah, I think Usman looked really good, and I was impressed with his chin and just everything that he weathered, and he looks good. The way he put Woodley away was super impressive. And now
I was going to say that too. That's why I had Usman going into it, just because he dominated that fight, and I've never seen anybody dominate Woodley like that.
I know. It was a weird fight because Woodley never did anything, which we've seen him do that against Wonder Boy because he's such a dangerous striker, and that's kind of how you have to fight him. But he didn't do anything against Usman. He never really came forward or anything. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm completely just hypothesizing here, but I feel like that maybe there's something in Woodley that he was just kind of tired of being champion and didn't want the pressure and to deal with it anymore. And maybe just in the back of his mind, he's like, I'm just going to go out. But I don't know. He's a fighter. I'm sure that's not the case.
I don't know. But whenever Colby was, I think it was the third round, beginning of the third round or in the third round, when he was sitting on that bench and he goes, I think I broke my jaw. I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. And then he fought both of the other rounds, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is a real man right here.
Yeah, it had little shades of Adesanya, Gastelum. They're just going to go out on their shield. That fight
was a war.
Fight of the decade, honestly. Izzy is saying, I'm willing to die, and then going out. So I think Gustus and Jones got fight of the decade in a lot of people's books. Respect, that makes sense. But Gastelum and Adesanya is right up there in my book.
I agree, dude. That was a war. And I'll be curious to see. Okay, let's go into Conor and Cerrone. What are you thinking?
Okay, so Cerrone has more of a skill set to win the fight.
Right.
I don't think he has the mental ability to just to do it. I think a lot of times he falls short in the biggest spotlights, title fights and that kind of thing. So I think Conor will win. I think his striking's going to do it, because I don't think Cerrone is going to do what he needs to do and rely on his grappling to put him away. If Cerrone wanted to, he could come in, like throw a couple feints, get him down, and mess with him on the ground and get us up. Like I think he could do that, but I think he's going to stand and bang. I think Conor's going to catch him.
Right. If Conor does not catch him before the third round, I give it to Cerrone because he will catch him. He will. But dude, I saw the Tony Ferguson fight against Donald Cerrone.
Yeah.
He got caught with a couple of them, but he did not quit. I don't think that fight ended until, was it the third round when Donald tried to blow his nose?
Yeah, that's right. I think it might have been the third.
I don't know. If they go into those later rounds, dude, I got Donald winning it, and I know that's, you know.
I can see that. But I don't know. I think Conor's ready to be in the spotlight again. I don't know. I feel like he will have put in the work. I was listening to some John Kavanaugh stuff he was talking about, and just saying like the work he's been putting in for this is like so much more than he even put in for his early fights. I read John Kavanaugh's book too last summer when I was in Ireland. It was really interesting, his breakdown of Conor's progression and going fight to fight, and like very similar to kind of John Jones, and like he wouldn't put in as much effort as you would expect. When you see someone come out and perform and look like making it easy, you would think they had been like killing it in the gym, and he would have been okay in the gym but not killing it. And Kavanaugh said now he's really getting after it. So
right.
I think Conor's, maybe his cardio is going to be even better than we've seen, because he hasn't had much cardio.
I don't know why he struggles so bad with that. I always said, like, if you give Conor Colby's cardio, he would be the best pound for pound ever. Like, ever.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. Yeah.
Because his first two rounds, like the first round, he is just unstoppable. I'm talking about, he is like so calculated. He puts it right on the chin, you know?
Yeah, he's impressive. I've always liked Conor. I was very happy to see Khabib maul him and then attack his team. I thought that was fun. But I've always liked Conor. That was probably one of my favorite fights ever, just because I liked both of Khabib and Conor both. That was fun. But
Right. I love Conor, dude. It's easy to love Conor, you know, just the way he talks and everything. Yeah. One of my favorite fights was Tony Ferguson versus Anthony Pettis.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Dude, that was a war. They were Anthony Pettis was like,
looked so good early in that fight. Like I thought he was gonna stop him. Honestly, no one can stop Tony Ferguson, but
yeah. And I can't wait to see what Tony does against Khabib.
Yeah. I mean,
if they fight, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, man, fifth time, but I pick Khabib. I've seen Tony like come back from stuff, but I've also seen him come back because the other guy kind of fell off. So like Kevin Lee looked really good against Tony, and then he fell off. He had staph and like whatever his cardio was. I think Kevin would have beat him if he didn't have that, honestly.
Right.
I think, Tony's winning streak would have ended there. I think that Pettis could have beat him. I think he made some mistakes and he like kind of fell off too, but Tony Ferguson's really good, but I don't think Khabib's going to make the mistakes. And so I don't know. I think it goes 5 rounds, but I think Khabib's going to win.
I don't know if Khabib gets him on the ground, it's just like you can't. I don't even know how you're going to stop it, but we'll see.
I think Khabib's going to get in some danger on some of those ground transitions. I think like Tony's going to put him in some ridiculous stuff, but I think Khabib's going to come through it.
When Dustin fought Khabib, I think that was the closest he ever got to losing. You know, when he had him in that choke, but he didn't sink it all the way in.
Yeah.
And I think an unfair thing about that fight is that it was fought in Dubai, and they had built the stadium, and it wasn't air conditioned.
Yeah, it was hot.
They're fighting in the heat. I'm like, dude, that is an unfair advantage for. I mean, obviously it's no advantage, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. I don't get too worried. Like I've been around enough high level grapplers that I know, like even when someone it looks sunk in and there's no way they're gonna escape, people who are super high level, even if you can walk up to them, they can let you put them in the tightest rear naked choke you have. Right. They can still find little ways to like breathe through a straw, like survive, like make it through. I don't know. So someone as high level as Khabib, I wasn't worried really.
And I don't know how they do it either. I mean, you think about all the adrenaline pumping, you think about everybody watching, dude. It'd be so easy to tap, you know?
I've been in that spot like so many times in the gym that they just, I don't know. When you've done it that many times, it becomes second nature, and you're like, all right, your arms are gonna burn out.
So you got Conor beating Cerrone then?
I think so. Yeah, that's my pick.
Let's see. Paul Doherty says Connor's gonna be killed. I guess he's choked up 90% of.
He's coked up now. He's on.
Oh, he's coked up 90% of the time. Okay. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, Connor could be coked up. I don't know. Connor's gotten in some crazy situations, bro. I mean, I wish he could just be cool, but honestly,
I know.
if I would have gotten all that money, I probably would have freaked out too, you know?
John Jones. I swear they're both like freaking Joe talks about it all the time. They're wild. Like you don't become
You
that
don't.
level unless you are wild. And I see it some even with Bryce, like not nearly to the extent, but he's not gonna listen. If he doesn't want to listen to someone, he's not going to. He's gonna do what he wants. And fighters that have that mentality, like the fighters who make it to the top, they just have that mentality. And they're just different. Like you can't reason with them, like especially when you get to those levels of success too.
Right. I don't know, dude. It's gonna be interesting to see. Okay, so you're picking Connor. I'm sorry. I think I interrupted you with
No,
showing up.
you're good. Also, like I think Cerrone's towards the end of his career too, and I think obviously he has the ability. He can land a head kick Connor didn't see coming. He can take him down. He can put him in like a arm triangle or whatever. Like he definitely has the skill to beat Connor. But again, I go back to the mentality, and I think that's where Connor's gonna have the edge.
Right. And I think if Connor wins this fight, I just think that there's not a lot of places for him to go. I mean, he's talked about fighting Masvidal, and I think Masvidal's got way too much power for him. He's talked about if he fought Khabib again, and I think it would go similarly to the way that it went. And then he's talking about fighting Justin Gaethje, and I'm like, dude, those are all killers. I just don't see
like the Gaethje fight. I think that'd be the most fun because both of them are gonna go out there and just stand and bang. Like that's gonna. But
that'll
Connor
be good.
I don't know. They both have. Connor has kicks. Connor's got little things. I think that'd be a really fun fight.
I need to go. I've watched Connor's fights so many times, but like when you just get into the latter ones, when you get into both of the Nate Diaz fights, I don't really watch the Floyd fight anymore. But I don't have a lot of I don't know his cardio. I just don't feel like it's gonna hold up.
Yeah.
Like his gas tank.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's fair. It very well might fail him again, but we'll see.
We'll see, dude. That's what's so fun about it. So anyway, dude, I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about for this. Do you want to, give a shout out to anything, before we close it out?
I don't think so. Just everybody go on YouTube, look up Homegrown Fighter, check it out, man. It's so much fun. I love it. Bryce is honestly just like my best friend, and I love getting him out there. And if anyone watching happens to be engaged or getting married or whatever, or you know someone who is, go to canonweddings.com and we'll shoot it for you. So that's about it.
Kid, I appreciate you coming on, man. We're going to go and wrap it up here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. My name is Justin, this Forever Self-Employed. And until next time, hustle hard and get that money, baby. Peace.
Later.
Dude, that was